And welcome to the March 26th meeting of the Board of Selectmen. If you'd all rise and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, again, welcome, and thanks for those that are here in attendance and those that may be tuned in. A couple of announcements. Just want to let everybody know that our town clerk of M.R.S.A has just been recently appointed to a Didymus Justice and is able to perform functions during regular working hours. Didymus Justices perform single functions under the Maine statute that of swearing in other public officials, including notary publics. The office is a lifetime appointment by the governor. So I want to congratulate Yvette for that. On a bit of a sadder note, just want to extend our sympathies to the McCoy family. Gerald Mac McCoy, who actually was living in Lyman at the time, passed away a week or so ago, and but spent many years on Route 202 and living in Route 202 over in South Waterboro, and his sons and relatives and grandchildren and everything out still in Waterboro. So again, we extend our sympathies out to the family. Any other announcements from the board? Sensing none, we do have an appointment this evening. I want to welcome Christian Elkington, who's a Massabesic High School Principal. He's going to take a few minutes to explain what's going on. Thank you.
PowerPoint. Yeah, I kind of put this in a different version, and then I realized I'm not going to have a PowerPoint, so I copied it for you, but it kind of goes over several pieces that I want to. First, I want to thank you for allowing me to speak to you tonight. As I had said last year, as I said to you last year, I want to start to try and come to speak with you and share information from the board, your high school every year, and give you updates of how things are going and what we're doing. And so I'm going to do that tonight. Just give you a quick update about the last year and so forth. So as you can see on page 1, I'm going to review some school data with you. The M.R.S.A recommendations. That's the group within New England that certifies that our school is following high standards as determined by that group. Some program changes, our new work habits rubric, and just some next steps. So as you can see, just a few data pieces on that first page. That I'm very happy to say that course failures have reduced now 3 years in a row, and student course success rates have improved now 3 years in a row. The percentage of failures, this was a big concern of parents, board, and community members when I took over 4 years ago, that we were having a lot of courses failed, and that students were not taking courses as seriously as they could, and also the amount of money that we were spending and having kids retake courses. We were seeing some waste, and we've been able to see that drop to below 7.9% in our first trimester, and I'll have a handout it explains that a little bit more. But we've seen a tremendous drop in that, which is good. We've had our 2 biggest classes in 10 and 11. I didn't mention this to you before, but in 10 and 11, those are the 2 biggest classes ever to graduate from Massabesic High School. And we've seen our graduation rate rise 3 years in a row. And that's rising when we've had increased expectations for student attendance, student coursework completion, and student behavior at the high school. So even with raised expectations, we've seen our students following suit and meeting those expectations. Very interesting stat from the class of 2012, that we had 14 graduates in the class of 2012 that had been homeless during their 4 years, parts of their 4 years at the high school. And we saw a dramatic increase, over about 20% increase in the amount of community service hours that the class of 2012 completed over the class of 2011. In that last box, you can see one of the things that when I was brought in 2009, we made it extremely difficult for kids to earn college courses. And we've broken down a lot of those barriers, and we've seen, as you can see, almost a five-fold, well, over a five-fold increase in the amount of college courses that our kids are earning. And that's obviously very important for kids because it allows them to both start college courses before they've graduated and to earn college courses for those that continue in either a 1, 2, or 4-year program. And it's a nice savings in money for them because we know how expensive college is now. We have a great deal with YCCC where they have grant funds that pay for most of the college expenses, and then the school system pays the rest of the course expense less than $100, and this allows us to, in fact, have less teaching staff at the high school because a lot of these courses are taken in English, and they can use this as one of their graduation requirements, as one of their 4 English courses. So even though we are spending some money for those courses, we're getting them at about a third or 20% of the cost. Well, about a third of the cost. And when you look at all those courses, it's allowed us to reduce, not that we like to do that, but in these tough times, reduce the amount of staff we have that teach English, and which is overall a savings for the taxpayers and for the system. If you turn to page 2, which is the back of the first page, the first slide just gives you an idea of the GEDs and adult ed diplomas that have been earned. We have seen a reduction, as you can see, and this makes sense with more of our kids graduating. You know, more of our kids are graduating, and so there's less need to earn an adult ed diploma. There is a mistake on the last bullet on the first one. It says MHS, SAT, and ACT scores have not yet showed consistent improvement. I can tell you that the scores for 2011 allowed our 3-year average, because what the state will do is look at a 3-year average, and our 3-year average, even though we know we want it to be much better, our 3-year average was the highest 3-year average we had in scores in the previous 10. So the class of 2011, the class of 2012, they take the test when they're juniors, so they took them in 2011. Their scores were some of the best we've seen in years. I came to you last year, talked about the NEASC recommendations. There were 55 of them, and you can see the progress that has been made, and it actually has even changed a little. I think it's 21 and 30 now, so we continue. You're given 5 years to complete those recommendations, and we're already about 40% of the way there in just 1 year of work. And I just recently received a letter from NEASC. They had put us on warning status for 3 areas, and there are 7 areas that they rate you on. And for core values and beliefs, they took us off warning status because of the work we've done. So it was very good. The next slide, it says 4-year goals and action steps. I just share that with you that 4 years ago, when I was started, Massabesic High School had not been doing 3 or 4-year plans, and we immediately set that up, and you can see we completed a lot of the action steps for that. The last slide here on page 2 just talks to you about some improvements during the 11-12 school year. We increased online course options, both with AP Online for Maine, which is a state-funded program, and allowing our kids to take advanced placement courses online. And we've also allowed students to earn other online courses as another way to learn if they're sick, ill in some way, and they can't come to school, or if they can't fit a course into their schedule. This was also something that wasn't being allowed before, which we've changed. The one-to-one iPad program that was begun in 11-12. You may remember that Maine is the only state in the nation that gives all its 7th and 8th graders laptops, and doesn't give them, but allows their 7th and 8th graders to use laptops. It's a state program, and of course it's funded with our tax dollars. There have been a lot of question in the state of that program should continue for high schools, but the state doesn't have funds for that. And so we looked at a couple of different options. The laptop option or having kids use laptops was just too expensive, so we went to iPads, which are about a quarter of the cost. Excuse me, a third of the cost of what it would be for a laptop. And so last year we had a good implementation, and this is the second year, 12, 13 of that program. Because as we know, the world is becoming technological, and things are done so quickly and so fast now. We need to get our kids that kind of support. We have an advisory program. We've expanded that. We've redeveloped our freshman teaming model a couple of times, and that's going well. And we've had some course changes over there. If you turn to page 3, we continue to go with standards-based intervention. Our intervention program has increased what we do for kids. This is also part of the reason why we're seeing less failures and more kids graduating, because instead of waiting to the end of a course to try and intervene, we're intervening much sooner than that. So we have intervention classes during the day, program after school, and we've cut all our courses into half-credit courses. You used to take a course for the year, and now you take it in 2 bits. And so if a student, what we used to find, what many schools found, is that when a student, if by January the student was hopelessly behind or hopelessly failing, they were useless in that class. But they stayed in that class for the rest of the year. Talk about a waste of time and resources. And so we cut all of our courses into half credits, and we also changed our schedule a few years ago. So now when a student finishes their half of the class, we determine then, have they met proficiency, or do they need intervention, and they don't go forward until they finish that, until they get proficient. You don't start to, you take the toilet off, and then you start to put pieces there. You don't put the whole thing back on at the same time. And so our kids are doing that, and we're actually even looking that we might even cut our classes into quarters, because we want to even break it down some more, so that, let's just say a course has 20 standards that they need to earn to have both halves of the course. 9 in the first half and 11 in the second half of the course. We're even looking at the point to do maybe the first 4 and the next 5, because we still see kids struggle. They're in a class and they have difficulties. How do we support them? How do we break that? So we may even be breaking courses down even a little bit more. That's something that our leadership team will be looking at. But we have continued to look at ways to support kids. As you know, just like taxpayers and community members, not everybody necessarily has the same house, starts the same way, has the same job, has the same income, and so forth. Well, a lot of our kids are like that too, and sometimes our kids learning, they come in with different understandings and different skills. And so we need to find more ways to support kids that may not learn as quickly, and as well as allowing kids who do learn quickly to move more quickly through the curriculum and through courses. And we started a process last year around professional development where every teacher now does 6 peer observations. We're a trimester school, so we have a first trimester, a second, and a third. And actually the whole district is trimesters now, those of you who have children or grandchildren or so forth. And every teacher now goes and observes 2 other teachers in their work, in their practice, to see how they're doing. And they share information between the teacher that doesn't go to me. But we thought that was really important, that our teachers too many times shut their doors and don't watch what other people are doing and don't learn ideas from other people. So we started that last year, and this year it's going well again. The improvements plan for this year, we, as I think I already mentioned, we're continuing the iPad program. We continued our advisory program, and with freshmen, we changed our whole schedule around for freshmen again, so that now freshmen, I talked about how we look for interventions at the end of trimesters, and we broke courses up. Now with our freshmen, we have interventions almost immediately, every month. And what we're doing with some kids, if they're not progressing well on their English, math, science, and social studies, freshmen, we're pulling them out of electives at their freshman year. So they might be in a gym class or an art class. We're pulling them out and saying, no, you need to get these 4 first. We don't want you to progress to your next year behind in English or behind in math or behind in science. We got to get those straightened out first, and that's gone very well. Where we're pulling kids, there've been few parent complaints. Some, my son loves this. This is going to keep him in school. And what's going to keep him in school and successful is he doesn't get behind in math by the time he's a junior and he's a year and a half behind. That's what we're telling people. And you know the importance of reading, writing, and math. And so that has gone pretty well, very well this year. We also we're one of 4 schools in the state that started something called the Maine Virtual Learning Consortium, which is an online school. It's been very rough first year for that, but right now up at in Augusta, there is some discussion and there's a bill that may support us a little bit more, sponsored by Justin Alfond and also the minority leader of the Senate, the Republican, to look at supporting us so that Maine has their own online high school. New Hampshire has one. Florida, several states have an online high school. Vermont has a very successful one. New Hampshire started theirs 6 years ago. Vermont about 8 years ago. And so we're looking in Maine to do the same thing, and we're one of 4 high schools that has put resources into this, allowed some of our teachers to teach some of these courses to try and see if we can get it started. So we're hoping that there will be some funding from the state that allows us to continue that work, because each of the schools that put in new, we were putting in this year to see if we could get it off the ground. And again, why were we putting money this way? A lot of us who do online programs with kids, we're paying $200 to $300 for an online course. The cost for this, if we get it moving, would be to member schools of like $100 a course. So you can see it's like 50% increase savings if we get this moving, and that was one of the other ideas we were looking at to move things along. And we also started this past year something we call a school coach, where we have every trimester a different teacher who works with a number of staff in professional development and support to try and help them improve their teaching and learning as an adult professional, and that's gone very well. If you turn to page 4.
Can I interrupt this?
Yes, sir.
How is the intervention coordinator working? How's it doing?
The intervention coordinator is doing a great job. That was a new position. Actually, that was reallocated money, and we're now very organized. It's taken away time from the guidance counselors and the department heads, who we were getting a lot of mixed up because people were trying to do too many jobs. And it's allowing the guidance counselors to spend less time on trying to figure out things. And the coordinator, now we have one person coordinating everything, so everybody knows to talk to one person. And we all know it's much easier to have people information to go through one person. So that has gone really well, and have had rave reviews from department heads, some parents who appreciate being able to talk to Beth Walter, who's the intervention coordinator, and the guidance counselors think it's gone well too.
Now this is in areas that kids are having problems, right?
Yes.
Study-wise.
Yes.
Whatever.
Yep.
Okay. Very important.
Very, very important. I agree. The next, if you turn to the next page, the work habits rubric, I'm just going to give you a bigger version so you can see it. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
This was something that during last year we worked very hard with staff, community and business leaders. One of the things that we were seeing with our kids is that our kids were not putting enough time and effort on let me step back again. We want to make the grade the grade. So when you get a science grade, it's on content. That's the science, Not if you got stuff in late, not if I'm going to take 20 points off because you didn't get this in on time or whatever. But when I see my kid's Algebra 2 grade, that tells me he's got an 85 in Algebra 2. So in theory, he knows 85% of Algebra 2. Not he got a 72 because he passed things in late, because he didn't do his homework all the time, but what does he really know? And so we took these other pieces and are now grading them separately. As you can see, respect, responsibility, and creative thinking. So now every student at Massabesic High School for every course gets 4 grades based on this rubric. They get their content grade. So in U.S. history, Johnny's got an A or a 90. He really knows the content. But he may have a 90 and then 3 ones because his attitude stinks. Doesn't always get his work in. It's passed in late. And he doesn't really want to, under the other pieces, creative think, try and look and work problems in different ways. So what we wanted to do is give parents and guardians more information. And as you can see, we worked with business around respect and responsibility. What are those things that are most important from a business standpoint? And we looked at a bunch of studies, and we developed this rubric. So when you're looking, respectful, following classroom expectations, safe environment, working collaboratively with others, huge in both business. It's kind of funny. Everyone says this is huge now for today's world. Seems to me I wanted to be able to work well with people 40 years ago. I don't know why it's so important now, but a lot of things are now really centered around team. There is more of that. But we looked at this: values, other thoughts, and people. Then responsible, prepared, on time, focused, meets deadlines, completes quality work, and so forth. So instead of a parent or a student looking and saying, hey, I got an 80. I have an 80 in science. What does that mean? Well, I've got an 80 in science. Does that mean that you pass in all your homework on time, you do all this, your test grades aren't very good, but you participate well, so you got an 80. What does it mean? Are you doing your stuff? So this is breaking it all up so parents get a good feel. And some of the businesses, when I spoke with the Chamber of Commerce in Sanford, shared that there's a lot of these things that this is what I rate my workers on. Exactly. And so they saw this, and some of the businesses we worked with and through saw this. So this is a new thing this year. We feel it's gone very well. It is the first year of implementation. Right now it's only on their report card, but we will be looking in a couple of years, it'll be included on their transcripts. And I can tell you that when I was principal at another school near this district, we brought the registrars or assistant registrars from Bowdoin, Bates, and Colby to a night when we were talking at that district about breaking the grade up. And asked them, what did you think if we broke things up and you got more information? And all of them to a person said, I'll give you the quote from the Bowdoin registrar. We want to know if a kid is a lazy son of a gun. He didn't say lazy son of a gun. He used something else. But he said, we want to know that. We would much rather have a kid who works his or her tail off to get that strong B+ than a kid who easily gets an A and doesn't work hard. And Colby believed the same thing, and so did Bates. So we really feel strongly that this work habits rubric, as we implement it over the next few years, will allow and as the kids take it more seriously, and as the parents and guardians take it more seriously, that we'll be able to focus on those work habits because those kids are going to need when they leave us for the job market or for future schooling.
I've got a question here as far as businesses go.
Yep.
Can the local McDonald's go to the guidance department and get the transcripts? Does it have to go through the student to sign that off?
Yes.
Or can they get it? Okay.
They would.
So, but they could demand that before they hire a person to look at these transcripts.
Right. Not Shaw's. What's
Hannaford
thing. I want to keep calling it Shop and Save. And I was actually talking to the assistant
A lot of
manager.
us would know what you meant when you said Joe.
Yeah, but Hannaford's, in theory, they know about this. So they could say, Chris, well, you know what? I want to see your report card and I want to see your work habits pieces.
Yeah.
Right now, it's not on the transcript because that's what most businesses would ask for in schools. But in a couple of years, we're going to go to this will be included on students' transcripts. But we want to ease it in so they start to take it more seriously. And we're all figuring it out. But yes, a local business, you know, right around the corner could say, yeah, you guys have a work habits rubric there, right? I'd like to see your report card and see just how hard you work. And
Now, do you get information out to local businesses that you have this?
we have talked to some, but haven't sent it to all.
Because that would have a powerful incentive with some kids and the parents that looking for summer jobs and looking for part-time work. If the local business people required that.
And that's our hope when we go to the transcript, on the transcript, because colleges and schools tell us they want to know how hard kids work. I mean, just like you would in any business you'd run. And on the bottom, just as examples, not the greatest because you can't read them, about how, like I was telling you, every student's grade, they now get, every course, they get 4 grades. The 3 work habits and the content grade. If you turn to page,
I have a question. Under this model here, is there anything built in? Because I'm looking at category number 1.
Yep.
Is there some trigger factors built into this that would give you a handle on whether or not a kid in school is being bullied, and that might be why some of the other factors aren't the way they should be, and whether or not a person is a loner based on his non-participatory behavior, that there may be other factors involved?
It's going to give us more information, because what we will do is, you know, what we do and what we ask teams to do, you know, our teams at the freshman and sophomore level especially, and then we ask our guidance counselors, is to, in your team, if you suddenly see a kid dropping or some changes that, you know, like before it was just with grades. You know, the first trimester, Chris had all 90s. The second trimester, Chris had all 70s. What happened? And so this would be another bit of information, like you're saying, if you took the whole piece, just respectful, that first area, and if all of a sudden they got 3s and were consistently respectful, and then that next trimester, the science teacher notices I put a 1 down for Chris. And they see those every 3 times a trimester. So every month, we're supposed to be reviewing their grades. So when I say, you know, a trimester's 12 weeks, or about 3 months, every month, a student gets a progress report sent home. And so the grades, so teachers are supposed to be reviewing those grades, and so our guidance counselors to look at their kids, looking at both their grades and these work habits. So that would be more information to say, hey, what's going on? So yes, that would just be another piece of information to look at.
So the counselor digs into that.
Correct.
To make sure that
And with their team.
there isn't a change in the home life, like there's a divorce or there's been a death in the family, something that was a contributing factor to their non-participation.
Right, and Mainers, we are not too quick to tell people about our problems. We like to keep them at home. And sometimes we don't hear about difficulties, and then this will be one of the first things we'll see. Their grades have gone down, and now these breakdowns will also see that. And I'll give you an example, like say creative thinker, the 3rd column. If the student, say the student was still being respectful, you know, is not acting out in any way, responsible, still doing all those things, but all of a sudden in creative thinker they went all the way down to a 1. Look at those pieces right there. They're not motivated, is something bothering them. They're not being as inquisitive. They're not being a problem solver. They're not being collaborative. Those would be all signs that you would look to someone retreating into their shell. And if you turn to page 5, and again, the first one is just talking about some of the templates that we used, and that was just basically the plan that went into making that work habits rubric. And we're going to review it again this spring. We're a little behind schedule, so it's going to be April, May, and not March and April. Well, it's going to probably be May into June, where we're going to look to make some adjustments, but probably this year we won't make that many. There haven't been that many complaints or concerns shared with me, but we are going to be collecting some information. Next steps for the high school, we're going to continue to move in those areas. High expectations, the increase in expectations for parents, guardians, and communities, and what I mean there is trying to get them more involved in the high school and sharing more information with us. One of the number one things we see with kids in difficulty is a kid will get into big time difficulties, and we're trying to work with them, and then finally 6 or 8 weeks later, a parent will share something with us and say, yeah, well, you know, their grandfather died 6 weeks ago, or the father and I left the home. I mean, stuff that I totally get, in many ways is not our business, but if a kid is affected by that, we need to at least know a little bit so we can help the kid, because many times we don't get that information. So that's what I'm saying in reference to that. And we do want to increase the role of student voice. We don't ask our kids enough of what they think. Recently started a student advisory council that meets with me every 3 weeks, and we go over certain issues and concerns at the school, and they're going to start to share information with the student body as a whole of what we're discussing. And we hope that that'll increase kids sharing what their concerns, what their problems are. I mean, a bunch of the kids, just like, you know, many of us would, their number one concern was some of the changes that happened with lunch. There are new state and federal, actually not so much state, federal guidelines for what lunches can be. And taking salt out, less sugar, that wheat, everything's wheat. And that has changed the taste of a lot of food. So the Student Advisory Council wanted to meet with the food, I can't even think of her position, the person who coordinates food within the district, food services director, who we share with Noble, the Noble district. That was one of the things, a cost-saving plan that was 5 or 6 years ago. The Noble district and ours, RSU 60 and us, we share the same food services coordinator. She's great. I worked with her previously. And so she came in and got blistered by the students for about 45 minutes. It was good. They were very tactful, but she answered all their questions, and they went back and forth. So that's the kind of way we want to try and get the kids more involved. That's a number one issue now that's gone. Now they got bigger fish to fry. I mean, putting me on that list. So we're going to continue with a lot of those different pieces as you see there. If you turn the page, I just wanted to give you a little bit more detail and something that's more easily read with bigger font. And this is what I was telling you about the increase in of the course success rates at the high school. And that's for the year. And the reason you see a difference, I just 08 and 09 and 09-10, 11,632 courses. That's because we were on the old semester schedule, and then when we broke it into thirds and broke courses, when we broke the year into thirds and broke all courses into halves that were not already in halves, that's where you see the increase in number of courses. So you can see course failure rates were getting worse and worse, and I was brought in the summer of 09. And if you look at the bottom, we compare, first quarter and then fall trimester, because those are the two closest things when we changed our schedule. And you can see that from a high in 09-10, we've now cut 60 to 65% of the number of course failures that we were seeing within the first trimester. And a big part of that is with our freshmen. Freshmen come to the high school. We really worked hard with Mr. Fisher in the middle school so that our two schools worked better together, so that we knew the difficulties kids were having, and also the interventions that we've put in place to support kids who struggle. So that's a big reason why those failures have dropped very dramatically. And the last piece I'm giving you, we're all in tight budget times. The last sheet is just some budget comparisons, and I want to make this clear that I'm not sharing with you this with you to say, oh, woe is us. I want to make that very clear, because right now we're in a tough budget season, just as you are. We know that the governor's proposals are being discussed at length in Augusta, but I wanted to share this with you just so you had a clue of kind of where we are as a high school as compared to other high schools. I think we've been very innovative, and if we use that same work habits, rubric. I think we get a 4 the last 3 years for being pretty creative and reallocating resources at the high school, along with some support, some increased funding from our district. So just to give you a little bit of idea, as I said here, over the years 2007 to 2011, and we don't have the 2012 numbers yet because the state always gives them a year later, that we were either second to last or third from the bottom when it came to funding for all of Maine's public high schools in the state of Maine. There's approximately 129 of them, and we were either 128th or 127th. And in reference to our percentage below the 2011 numbers, we were at the state average. We were at 1/4 below. So the state average was around 10.6 in 2011, and we were $8,400 per student. So I think we're doing an awfully good program and trying to pinch every penny that we can. In reference to the league, we are last in our league, the SMAA, which includes, communities from Marshwood, Noble, Sanford, Bonnie Eagle, Wyndham, Portland, South Portland, Biddeford, Kennebunk, Deering, Cheverus, you get the idea, Thornton Academy. Of the public high schools in that league, we are at the bottom. And if we were to the second school, and that's changed from year to year. Sometimes it's Noble, and sometimes it's Bonnie Eagle. These are the kinds of more funding we would have had at the high school. And it's very interesting, and those aren't misprints there. Those are very, they've been rounded to the nearest 1,000, but for some reason, the way the funding formula has worked, and the money that's been spent, we are actually looking that in 10-11, it was $1 million if we were to get to the closest school, which was Noble. In 09-10, it was $357,000, which was Bonnie Eagle. And then in 08-09, it was $1 million, almost $50,000 again, and that was Bonnie Eagle again. And then in 07-08, it was $357,000, which was Noble. So it just gives you an idea of the things that we're doing, and you've seen the things we're doing and some of the funding. And then lastly, the last piece there is that our district's K through 8 schools are funded at a little higher rate than the 9 through 12 schools as compared to the state average. And as you see there, in 10-11, the elementary schools were 17% below the state average. In 09-10, they were 16%. In 08-09, 14%. In 07-08, 15%. And then below, you can see that in 10-11, if we had just decreased to minus 17%, which is where the elementary schools were, that would have been another $700,000 for the high school. So I'm just sharing that with you, and it is not a line, even though some of my brethren think it is a line, the people I work with. But it's just to give you a perspective. I really believe strongly that the tax money that we are able to get and the state funding that we are able to get, we are using as best as possible at the high school. And so some things are going on. We're reallocating. Tomorrow night, Dr. Davis, the superintendent, is sharing a budget proposal with the board that's going to look at making some major changes so we stop doing the death by 1,000 cuts. And we say, all right, we know where we're going to be. What are we going to do? What do we have to blow up and change so we don't every year look at cutting a little of this and cutting a little of that and making our schools good schools and trying not to spread ourselves out too thin. And that's all I have. I think that was enough.
You need another column on your last sheet. Here's what we spend, but how do we stack up relative to the output? Right?
Yep. Oh, and I can share some information with you.
Are our kids middle of the road with this comparison to the same schools,
Yep.
state average, or are they above, below? I mean, there's probably a huge disparity there, right? We're 24% below in spend, but I would guess we're not 24% in the quality of
And
education.
results. Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I don't know if I'd call it quality of
Well.
education, but the results we're getting.
Results, right.
And I'm not trying to pick a wordsmith word. One of the things I can tell you is I mentioned to you our 2011 scores, and our 3-year average was good. And one of the things I've done, and I can give you some more information, and maybe I'll just even send it to you because you brought up a good question, is compared to the 29 biggest high schools in the state, all of which spend more money than we do, we were about a third from the bottom. So of the 29 schools, there were approximately, I guess I want to say, about 18, 19 schools whose test scores were better than us, and then there were 8 or 10 schools whose test scores were below us, give or take. So it is a good question. It is something that we need to work harder on, but I will say that and that I think that some of the changes we're making will lead us into that direction. But you're right, it is a good point, because I did want to say, and that was just as compared to the biggest schools in the state. If we look at all the public high schools in the state, we were around 70. So there were 50 below us, and there were 70 above us. So in cost-benefit analysis, some of our results, and you hate to say the two match, because I don't always agree that they do, but our results were better in many ways as compared to the amount of money we were spending. So it is a good question, and I could add that, and I'll send you something to share that information with you. Thank you for that question.
Chris, when you're talking about cost, most of the cost is in staff.
Correct.
So when you're looking at a high school that spends a lot, that has a much higher rate per student, is that because they have more classes? Are there more Latin 4 classes and things like that? How's that money spent?
Yeah, I think it's two ways. A lot of other districts, some of that money is spent in materials, technology, and in turning over books more quickly. But in reference to teachers, it is spent on more options. Right now, I'm sorry to say, I'm having meetings with some of my staff in reference to tomorrow night to tell them, we're going to have some program reductions. And there are going to be a couple of programs we're going to have to reduce or eliminate because of some of the difficulties that we're all experiencing. But some of it is options. I mean, I think that I'm a strong believer that unless your school is an unsafe place, and I don't think our school is, that you can get a very good education. I mean, we had a kid early acceptance to Harvard last year, and she said she owed it, a lot of it, to the school. And so we get a number of kids that go to good schools, but part of it is on the number of options. And since we've expanded allowing our kids to take college courses and to take online courses, we're able to get through some of that and not offer some of those. But we don't have as many languages as some schools, and we don't have as many art courses, and we don't have quite as many math teachers and so forth. The teachers of our school teach they are with students more than teachers of any other school. I mean, our teachers are with kids 80% of the time. And that's more than any other high school. The only thing you can do is tie us. Because there are very few trimester schools, so our teachers teach 4 out of 5. And in a semester schedule, teachers are teaching sometimes 5 out of 8 or 6 out of 8. And, which is 6 out of 8 is 75% of the time they're with kids. So our teachers are with kids more, and our kids have less study halls than most other kids. But it is because we do offer less. We don't have 4 or 5 languages. We don't have we don't have a real computer tech ed program. We are giving kids, not giving, but kids are being supplied iPads now, and so we're trying to support them that way. But we don't have as many choices as other places. And it is a big issue. And with some schools, let's be serious, let's be honest, some schools pay more than our teachers receive. Our teacher salaries are pretty good. They're not great, but they're pretty good. And so some of it, like if you compared us to, you couldn't compare us to a place like Falmouth, because their teacher salary scale is much higher than us. In some ways, you can't compare us to Portland, in some ways, because their teacher salary scale is higher. So you are right. Some of that is because of staffing and or contracts.
All right, anything else? Thank you, Christian.
Thank you.
Appreciate the update.
And I appreciate you allowing me to come see you.
We'll look forward to you coming back to us in another year. So,
Thank you.
all right,
Thank you all. Nice to see you all.
thanks. Okay, moving on, hearing and delegation. Correspondence. Long list of correspondence, weekly treasurer's financial reports, a couple of weekly newsletters from Representative Libby, a couple of confidential letters from the town attorney on legal matters. There's the Ecomaine recycling totals. Notice from the Department of Agriculture, Conservation and Forestry, proposed expansion of the Maine Forest Legacy Program, request for and info from Burnett of Forest Works. It doesn't work for MMA anymore, huh? Seeking support for the proposed expansion of the Maine Forest Legacy Program. Invitation to the Waterboro Association of Businesses for their after-hours event, which I think we've now missed. County Commissioner's announcement on the new York County Emergency Management Agency Director, Mr. Leo Rogers. He will be on board on the 8th of April. Brings us down to reports and staffs and initiatives. We have the Community Garden Committee.
Oh, hi.
You're on. Timing was impeccable.
Let me bring my car door opener with me. Yes.
Car door opener, did you say?
Yeah. In case I lock myself out. Oh.
Thanks.
So what you have in front of you right now is what looks to be our finalized application. We're not releasing it yet, because we want to make sure everybody, we've tweaked it and about as much as possible, but this is kind of the final product. These will be coming out, let me go back on my notes here. On April 8th, we're going to release these applications out to the public. We ask them to be returned by 5 p.m. on the 29th for review. And then we're going to contact the people. In the event that we have too many applicants, not enough spots, we're going to contact the people and let them know yes or no if we have room for them. We're probably only going to be able to do, if we had to pay today, I don't like to count on things before they happen. We've had a lot of interest for donation, but as of today, if those all fell through, we'd be able to do about 13 to 15 plots. We wanted to do 25 this year, but we only have so much money to work with. And but if we were to get generous donations of clean tested soil and lumber, then that's going to make a vast difference. And we figured 25 in the first year as a goal is a good number to see how well we can manage it. So one of the things that's on here, one of the beginning pages, is our schedule of free events. We've already had 2 workshops. We're doing once a month on the 3rd Wednesday, except for, I think it was May and September. It's an alternate date. We have speakers coming in. Our first workshop was a seed starting workshop where people could come in, learn how to start their own seeds at home. We showed them how to make really inexpensive paper pots so they don't have to go out to the store and buy fancy plastic trays or anything, making it affordable. We've had a lot of really generous donations of seeds from companies. So every workshop that we're doing, we're putting seeds in people's hands for them to go home and plant, and so they can start thinking about their gardens. The workshops are free. They're open to anyone to come to. Our last workshop was on vermicomposting, but it was after the snowstorm, so we didn't get quite as many people. Our next one is on April 17th. Jordan Pike, the owner of Two Toads Farm, he's going to come and do Gardening 101, kind of a basics, and Deb Mercier from Greenwood Herbals over in Limerick is going to come and talk about modern herbalism and what that is. Some other ones that we have, square foot and vertical gardening. We're going to do some food preservation, meals on a budget, how to put your garden to bed, fall crops that you would plant. So we want to keep the education part of it going, even if people aren't coming here to grow with us, but have a community connection. Speaking of money, our fundraising attempt is going to be to sell bricks. They're personalized bricks, 3 lines of script. If you choose to have a little symbol engraved, it's an extra expense because that's the engraver's expense. We got a lot of brick samples from companies. We chose the ones that we liked the best by. They were laser engraved into the brick. They'll be red, not this color. And there's a variety of different little icons that you can have on it, from a Marine Corps emblem to dog prints. So people will be able to buy a memorial brick, and we'll lay it down and create a pretty walkway out of it, and hopefully raise some money. Another thing that we have up is our website. We've created a website that we could upload pictures with, we could upload pictures like almost real time when we have events coming up. See how that's going so far. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but we do have people coming and visiting it. We're getting several hits a day, and we have our events on there, and it's linked to the town page, so it's back and forth. So if you go to the town page, you can go and get pretty much similar information as you get on this. This is just gives us an area to kind of put some of our documentation from our workshops, and it's kind of easy to remember, www.waterboroCommunityGarden.com, when people want to kind of check out and see what's going on. Let's see. We have an open garden day planned on May 11th. That'll be the day that when we tell people that they're accepted, that their application's been accepted. That'll be the day that payment will be due for the rental. We're not asking for money up front because we don't want to accept checks from people and not have the space. If for some reason we get overloaded with too many applications. So on that day, that'll be the deadline for it. They can drop off payment for their lot rental prior to that, but we're going to try and do some events like planting your garden and maybe a vegetable plant sale, and we'll have some experts there to help people get started. And I think that's pretty much covers it. Right now, the other part that we have a question of is water. We have a water issue, and we've contacted CMP. We've looked at different options about having utilities poles put out. There was a test well discussion. Well, we're also coming to you tonight because we have a very generous donation from a local plumber that he would do work for us to run a line to go out to the garden. But we are wondering if we could tap into the water line that's existing out in, what do you call that building?
Just the addition out to the
Just
storeroom.
the addition of storage room. There actually was, I guess, a line that was run, it just never ran out through the door, down through the wall. So there's already an area there to put a hose attachment. We just want to run a line that we can run underground and blow out in the fall so it doesn't freeze out to the garden so that we can use that for now. So for your consideration. Because water is a big issue, it's a big expense, and the test well was quite far back there. If we run electricity, we're not going to have a garden this year if we have to run a power line. We can't afford the utility pole. We couldn't afford to have a generator out there, never mind having that tampered with. I mean, we've really exhausted all efforts to try and find other options. So that's what we have so far.
if you end up with too many applicants, how are you gonna select who gets a plot and who doesn't?
We have some good questions on our application. We were gonna do first come, first serve, but it is a community garden. We're still in the debate mode of that. Actually, we were having that conversation last night. We talked about doing first come, first serve, or it being a community garden. We're asking people to volunteer a little bit of time to help others. Maybe somebody's sick and you can help your neighbor plant in their garden, and that's part of this packet. That's pretty common in a lot of community gardens, that they do ask you to give back a little bit of time, and maybe working in the pantry garden or working with the children. So right now, as it stands, we have a few questions in the back that ask people their participation level. What do they intend to plant? The problem that we were talking about, the debate with the first come, first serve, is do you deny a family of 6 that wants to plant vegetables for somebody who wants to plant flowers out here? There's tough decisions that you got to kind of think of all the problems that might come up. So we asked why they're interested in joining, what they intend to plant, if they want to participate in any kind of social activities or fundraising events with us. Are they going to need help?
But it sounds like you haven't come up with any criteria that you're gonna use at this point.
We don't have, it's 50-50 because, first come, first serve, the lottery system sounds fair. But in the event that we have an overwhelming amount of applicants, it's hard to deny people
I think
access.
the point of the question is that before you get there needs to be.
Yeah, we will. We had
it
at
needs
the
to
meeting last
It's
night.
just,
I think the next meeting is pretty much gonna.
I mean,
Next Monday's gonna nail it.
First blush, I would think you have to be fair about it and do it as a lottery, just because, well, how come you pick so-and-so over so-and-so? And just the whole headache, I think that could come with that, whereas it's a community
Yes.
garden, and so if you do it as a lottery, or first come, first serve, then it's
yeah,
fair off.
we've been talking about it and we're meeting every Monday now.
Yeah.
Because it's time's coming down, so,
I guess a lottery would be
Hopefully
less subjective.
yeah, so there's a lot of back and forth, and we've been trying to figure it out. I mean, we're new at it, and
Yep.
I think the other thing is maybe getting a hold of other community gardens and seeing how they do it. I know once they're established, they also take in consideration people who are gardening there on a regular basis, and they allow them to stay because they're making that commitment versus putting all the plots back into a lottery system. So,
Is that a lottery, I'm not sure what, is this a lottery system for if you have more people than lots?
yes.
But also, what about placement of lots? I mean, so in a way, if you say, okay, we're gonna start from back to front, right to left, or something like that, it make more sense from your perspective. But if I went in there and said, I want this one right in the middle here, and you got them kind of patchworked all over the place, I don't know, how do you plan on doing that?
I think one of the things we had talked about is just doing, if we have 1 through 15, we have 1 through 15 and pull. If we do a lottery system, then we pull 1, and that's 1. And we just number the plots out, and we work our way down that list.
So you pull something out of a hat and you get plot number,
We
whatever.
would go in order of the plots and work our way down. I mean, there's we've been working very hard. There's a lot of what ifs to think about. So it's an ongoing discussion that hopefully will be resolved soon. I hate to say for sure one way or the other what the decision's going to be without the other members here. So we will have that answer though. We will
Sounds
probably
good.
have that answer by next Monday evening, I would suspect.
Yeah, I would say with the discussion that was held last night that everybody's got to come back next Monday night, what we decided.
I may have missed it, but what's the cost of a brick?
The cost of the brick, they are that size brick with the 3 lines attached is $50, and that includes the fact that we're putting it and we're installing it. And if you want an icon, they charge $6, so there's no profit to be made on selling it with a little additional like clip art on the side. We also had the option of having a larger brick that if businesses wanted to donate, and those were either $250 or $300. It's a significant jump up in brick cost. They're more square.
8 by
They're
8s.
12
8
by
by 8s, I think they were.
yeah, it jumps up a lot from there. So the fundraising margin for us in work would be relatively similar at a $250 level. So that's
And how long do they stay there?
the bricks.
Yeah, forever, or do you turn them over after so many?
As long there is a memorial garden, so as long as they're in good condition, and I would assume probably what we'll do is part of our committee's job is maintaining this, and if we recognize that bricks are getting worn, then we'll contact the person who originally purchased it and give them the option to replace it. But as long as the brick's in good condition, and you know, we'll just keep it there and keep building on our walkways.
Then you don't have to be a active gardener to have a brick. Anybody can have a brick in there.
Anybody can have a brick. You can memorialize a person, you can put a moment in your life, you could put a pet, you could, anything, you have 3 lines of text, you can put whatever you want. So, a lost book, anything. So,
And the turnaround is 7 days to get the bricks.
yeah.
Oh, wow, that's
And,
quick.
and the larger,
No, he's out of Florida.
Really?
the larger number, the cheaper the cost was, I believe, on shipping. So we might hold on for the larger numbers to kind of offset that shipping cost. But we did look at several companies, 5 companies, and cost-wise, they were the cost and quality, they were the better one.
And they'll even put together the brochure that we're gonna need. They'll do all that.
And a website, they'll put
And a
together a
website, they'll have a
web page so
website,
that
yeah.
people can go right on and order. And they don't actually even have to have the form if they don't want it.
Wow. Seems like we could get some of our snowbirds down there to bring a case back. Save on some shipping costs. That'd be a good volunteer program.
That would be a good volunteer program. And speaking of volunteers, we
I
could
don't
use
think
them.
it's wrong.
We need more people to help. This is a lot of work. This is a lot of work on us, and we would love to have more people, even if it's just part-time, come in. If it means they want to take notes at the meeting, or they want to get out there and work one-on-one with people, or they just want to come to the workshops and help us set up, or, I mean, we're looking for all levels of volunteers. We're going to have a lot of manual labor out here, but there's also a lot of other things, fundraising, business contacts that we could use extra people for.
So when your cat dies, you can bury your cat under your brick.
Yeah, no.
How would we?
Only if it's the same size as the brick.
How much is the plot? Over and above the brick cost.
And eventually, one of the things we are going to look at when we talk about water too is drip irrigation. We just don't have the money for the kits right now. It's $80 for a kit that will do. We've debated between whether it would do 1.5 or 2 lots. That's a lot of money to try and come up with to do the whole area. Once you commit to drip irrigation, you're in it for the long haul. And there's a lot of installation, and then in the fall, uninstallation. But it's something that we really want to do because it's much more efficient. You cut down on weeds growing up. It's much more efficient watering. You're not wasting. So that is in the works as soon as we get more money. I know the principal didn't want to sound like he was begging, but I'm begging.
And also about the mosaic for the tree or the vine that we're gonna do for people who donated.
Yes, well, we wanted to do a business. We wanted to recognize businesses. We've talked a lot about because we've had some good donations from businesses, and we talked about doing a vine and putting leaves on it with the business names, and then we talked about doing bricks and having the business name put in, like, these would be like the leaves of our tree, do like a mosaic on the ground. So we have hopefully something special planned for that. And we've also had some businesses request if they donate generously, if we would mind if they put a sign up on the fence in an area that's not been blocked. We just want to recognize the people that are giving to us.
Anything else?
Can't
Thank
wait
you.
for the snow to go.
Yes.
All right, Conservation Commission.
All right, I'm out of here.
The other half.
On the other Luke.
I thought she was gonna throw the brick at you.
Wouldn't be the first time.
No, that's true.
Tequila, thank you. So, the last time we had met was in the fall, and we haven't really gotten a whole lot done because it seems it snowed every Thursday night. So we did have some meetings, and we worked on a couple of things, and one of it was we've talked with Bill LaFlemme, and we want to host a contract certification for shoreline irrigation. Erosion.
I was talking irrigation, I distracted you.
And that's to prevent sediment
We could
erosion
irrigate
into the
it
lake.
too, but
Well, we already got that. And that will prevent the sediment and erosion into the lake. And to be able to offer the class, we think that would be something that would be really beneficial to businesses around. And another thing that we're looking into is we also are exploring the local invasive plants program. We're looking to put together some workshops and educational classes for people.
good.
That's all I got
Well,
right
the
now.
weather is changing.
Well, we're looking forward to
We
having
need a few
some.
more members, right? So,
We're looking forward to some nicer weather.
It's coming.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
The Lucarelli Dynamic Duo.
Lucarellis are out.
Okay, moving on, Gerald. Probably shouldn't call him Gerald.
Back again with abatements. You should have before you, I guess the first one will be discussing the denial of the abatement request for 7 applications for Trust Building LLC. The reason being that they didn't provide any substantial information other than what you see on the sample application. And if you look at their assessments on the vacant lots and their subdivision up off Star Hill Road, it's comparable to others. The lots are a little bigger up there, and I don't believe their assessments are high when you compare them to the other subdivisions we have. So therefore, I'm recommending that the 7 abatements be denied.
What's your pleasure from the board?
I would motion to go with the suggestion of Jerry to deny the application.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Now you got one that you're recommending that we pass, Jerry?
Yes, this one, the application pretty much tells a story. I got wind of the problem of the difference in acreage between Les Boyce Cartridge and town records as early as November 6th, which is what the application says. I met with the representative February 7th. We looked over some survey plans, which I hold here. They're very, very extensive. They cover all of their holdings. Bottom line is that we have been over-assessing them for acres that they don't have. I have to admit, we didn't know any better. Of course, we didn't have the benefit of the acreage. And this seems to be occurring more and more when we have people who are surveying their lots in the modern era, and we compare them with the tax maps and old assessment records.
So they're asking only for 2013?
Yes, I didn't offer them any.
Okay. Well, when were the maps done?
The maps, you mean the tax maps or theirs?
No, theirs.
Theirs was done in 2003.
But this is the first time that they've come to us saying, hey, we think there's a discrepancy.
I think so, and we went through the, if you remember, the tree growth
Yeah.
penalty thing with them in some areas of town. One of the lots we're talking about here tonight was involved. It didn't come up there, so.
So the total abatement would be what, $1,778 bucks? or
Yeah, something like that.
What, now it says here they purchased 2,200 acres in April 2002. Most of the land is in tree growth,
Yes.
so we're talking 580 acres, which is not in tree growth? Is that what we're talking about here, or what?
No, they were all in tree growth. It's a case of, I think I made mention of it here, that looking at, I think we went awry with the tax records when tree growth was filed by either Les Boyce or R2 Timberlands. The tree growth records of 2000 and, what did I say, 7? April of 2002. For some reason, we had more tree growth acres than we had assessment acres. But during the, I think that was just about when the reval was coming in. Those two records were merged, and I think that created the bump in the acreage. Prior to those old assessing records, we were okay. We were a lot closer than we are now.
Well, if they purchased 2,200 acres,
Mm-hmm.
and there's only 580 there, did they sell the other?
No, that's
No,
one,
no,
that's
the-
one
the-
lot, David.
Yeah.
One lot.
These are the only two lots, Dave, that they questioned is 1445T and 1740.
Okay.
The rest of them, they're not perfect, but it's these two that stand out.
Okay.
The 2213 is a separate issue, right?
Yes.
It just says how much they supposedly purchased back in 2002, right?
Right, which means it's all of the lots in various locations, and we kind of scanned those, but we agreed in February that the two outstanding ones were the only ones that we'd be interested in dealing with.
All right, it's the board's pleasure.
I'll move to go along with the assessor's recommendation.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you, Jerry.
I'm abstaining on this, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I'm abstaining on this one.
Okay. Motion carried 401. Anything else, Jerry?
That's it, thank you very much.
Thank you. Selectmen's report. Gordon?
I managed to get in touch with John Sylvester regarding the six-town SAD or RSU 57 meetings, and apparently the superintendent had indicated that he didn't feel that having meetings this year would have any real productive result, because the percentage increase that the school was looking at was pretty minuscule. It's 2 to 3%. And he realizes that every municipality is feeling the crunch, and it would just be sort of a circular discussion really going nowhere, and that the superintendent was hoping that he could meet with each individual community board and explain things, but
What does that get him any closer to what he wants to do rather than meeting with 6 boards? You know, or a
I don't
committee
know,
that's made up of
I'm just
6.
relating to
Yeah,
this
I
board the
understand.
substance of the conversation that I had with Mr. Sylvester. So,
Guess that says it all. Alright. Anything else?
second item to bring up is I've been working with Christina, and we're trying to get a handle on some of these job descriptions for the positions out front. Gray was not as productive as we had hoped they would be. They're the one that they had provided to us was extremely vague, and they apparently have just that one for the whole gamut of their operation up there, which I thought was rather surprising. Enterprisingly enough, Christina did find another one that seems to contain at least a number of the elements that we're looking for, and we're going to be tweaking that. We had a suggestion from the town administrator, regarding one of the tweaks in it, and hopefully within the next couple of weeks, I hope to have a tangible product for the board to review. Because I've still got to meet with the employees have it right now, and they're looking it over, and then we'll have a meeting with them and kind of hash everything out, and then I'll bring it back before the board.
Okay. Tammy?
A couple of things. First, the road review committee meeting 2 weeks ago. The chairman of the road review committee is also on the 2020 committee, and they've been working with the Sewell company, and the Sewell company is going to be creating a town map, and they've asked for assistance from the road review committee. So the road review committee sat down with the initial map that Sewell company has come up with, and they're going through it street by street and identifying roads that are missing or roads that are misnamed and whatnot. It's quite a task that they've taken on, and they had only 3 weeks to get it completed, so a couple extra meetings have been built into their schedule. One of the things that is going to be done with this mapping for GIS is that all of the different types of roads will be on a different layer. So there'll be one layer that identifies just the actual town roads. There'll be another layer that identifies private roads, another layer that'll identify state roads. And what they've done is they've come up with a color rubrics for each road, so that when the map on all the layers are together, just by looking at the color of the road, you'll know what the status of that road is. So what they've talked about for a color scheme is green to match our green street signs for all the town roads, and blue for the private roads, which in our ordinance is what color street signs are supposed to be for private roads. Yellow will be a very pale yellow, and that'll be any discontinued, abandoned roads, and purple will be state roads. So that is due to the Sewell company actually by April 1st. So just want to make sure that everybody on the board is okay with that. They're not putting all of this work in and it's not going to be accepted afterwards. So throw that out there for the board. The other meeting that I had, we met 12-town group last week. Of course, the conversation, a lot of it had to do with the governor's budget proposal. And there was some conversations. Pat Callahan from Channel 6 did an interview with Justin Alfon, and one of the comments that he made was that there have been hundreds and hundreds of municipal officers that have gone up and testified on different components of the governor's budget, and there hasn't been anybody in any of these testimonies who has spoken out in favor of the governor's budget. So what Justin said in this interview with Pat Callahan, that as far as the Democrats are concerned, the governor's budget is DOA. There was a rebuttal from the Republicans who said that was a nice soundbite that he made, but there has to be some other options on funding state government, and they're seeing right now that the option is probably going to be the revenue sharing. So I think that's going to be a battle that we'll be seeing play out at the State House. John did talk about the municipal officials that have gone up and have spoken at some of these public hearings, and that it has had a very profound impact thus far on what is coming out of some of the committee work. So John encouraged municipalities to keep up the fight, keep paying attention to what's going on in Augusta, to keep attending meetings and keep having our voice heard. Talked about a lot of towns are adopting resolutions, which we have on the agenda for a little bit later, but Christina was nice enough to make a couple of copies of resolutions that John handed out at the meeting. He gave us several, but I just picked out the two that I thought were the best. April 6th is going to be the next meeting of the York County Advocacy Group. It'll be at 10 a.m. at the Sanford Council Chambers. And along with talking about the impact of the budget proposals, John wanted to make sure that we also really take a hard look at what the change in the excise tax is going to have for an impact on the municipality, because when it was originally proposed, the proposal was to take all commercial vehicle registration money for the state. That included somebody that has a pickup truck at home that is registered as a commercial vehicle, and taking that excise money as well. So the concern is that this change in excise tax is just a way to kind of get their foot in the door to start taking some of that excise money. And based on a couple of years ago, there was the proposal to start shifting some of the excise tax. So that was another area that John said we really need to pay attention to is what's happening with excise tax.
Okay. David?
Question was presented to me on what are we going to be doing with the Economic Development Committee? How are we going to handle that? And the second thing is, I guess a question to David. Is it possible to tape the April 22nd meeting at the fire barn?
Yeah.
And then maybe rebroadcast it?
Yep.
Okay. The planning board last week had a lengthy and intense workshop on cisterns. Very comprehensive discussion, and as usual, one idea led to another. And so I guess the next time that there's a workshop on that, the board needs to be there, because it could get quite complicated, or we could make it real simple.
Well, I thought the question was, were we supposed to be at this one, and they said no, right?
Right, I know. They would like it at the next one, okay? I guess I'm saying you should be there.
Do we have a tentative date on that yet?
I don't.
Okay.
What else was there? Oh, I guess the next thing is gonna be on the agenda anyway, the wildlife protection, so I'll just wait on that.
Okay. Anything else, David?
No.
John?
I'm fine.
I just got a couple of things.
It was quick.
The board meeting was held for Ecomaine on last Thursday, and Kevin presented the 2014 plan. Significant change in direction. In the 14 budget, there's a reduction of tipping fees for all member communities from $88 a ton down to $70.50.
Nice.
The intent of that is twofold, I think, is that it seems now that Casella has got their transfer station up and running out on 22. They're re-signing all these towns that had M.R.S.A, or some of the towns that had M.R.S.A agreements, and they're reducing it looks like the going rate is $70.50 a ton. We have been bringing in member associate communities for $70.50 a ton. So this will level the playing field. There's a budget committee, which I'm a member of, and we're meeting this Thursday to go through that and either endorse or recommend changes to the budget. So it means about $30,000 to us in tipping fees. Above and beyond that, there's a reduction in our assessment by another $26,000, I think, or something of that nature. And just so everybody's aware, Gunkwit, after 20 some odd years, has submitted a letter to Ecomaine saying they are withdrawing. Now that there is no debt and whatnot, they feel that they have an opportunity to get out. Unfortunately, I think now that all the debt's gone, we're going to reap the benefits of having been there all these years. So, but anyway, that drove a pretty lengthy discussion, probably too lengthy, on driving the assessment down. Because, you know, the only thing that, the argument is what do you get for the assessment? Well, you're one of the 21 owners, right? So what does that bring to the table? And, you know, and it is a total solution for us, but, anyway. So more to come on that, but it was an interesting meeting that went on and on and on, but, we also did this announcement that Hampton, New Hampshire is now gonna join as a recycling, member, already. So they're really reaching out, trying to bring in as much, other business, because there is a degradation, still a degradation of total tonnage coming from the member communities, or the owner communities, that everybody thought would have stopped by now, but it hasn't hit, doesn't seem to have hit the bottom yet. So, not only there's, I think the degradation of tonnage and the reduction in tonnage dollars represents about a minus 2.1 million in revenue to Ecomaine. So they're trying to see if they can, how to absorb that, so. The other thing was last night at the transfer station committee meeting, committee felt very strongly and they voted to recommend that the transfer station be open on Mondays from Memorial Day to Labor Day. You know, it's $7,000. Ultimately, part of it would be in this fiscal year, part of it would be in next fiscal year, but Clint would have to work his total budget to work those issues, but anyway, that proposal will be coming to this board, so we'll put it on next week's agenda. As well as the next meeting will be a workshop for the transfer station committee to talk about fees. A lot of discussion last night about tires. You know, why are we finding tires all through the woods and back roads? We charge a fee for tires, but it costs us only the weight and tonnage to get rid of them, because we're putting them in the compactor. So, you know, is it time to say, if we stop charging a fee for tires, do they stop showing up in the woods and start showing up at the transfer station? So, anyway, that discussion will take place, I'm sure, with, and I don't think anybody's bashful, Dwayne, on the committee to talk about what they think is right. So, we'll see where that goes next meeting. And that's all I have.
I've got a couple of comments, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman, if you don't mind. One on Selectman Gerard's briefing when she talked about the road review committee and the different overlays. I might suggest that if they're going out and examining these roads anyway, that one of the overlays be, and I don't care what color it is a distinction between what's paved in town and what's unpaved, so that we have something that, you know, some information that the road commissioner and the road review committee can look at, you know, down the road. I mean, if they're gonna be out there anyway, I guess it's just another pencil box they can check, you know. So I don't think it's adding that much extra work.
They're not actually going out and necessarily doing an inventory of all
Oh, I
the
thought you
roads.
said that they were going out
They-
and doing.
only if they've been sitting down with the maps. I mean, the great thing is you've got the current road commissioner and 2 past road commissioners that are sitting at the table, and the ones that they're going out and checking there's a couple that are on the map that they're not really sure what they are on the map, so those ones that they're going to do the checking.
And my understanding, and Dave could talk to this more, I think that the product that Sewell is gonna present is gonna be far and above what our expectations would have been, right? I think
It
it's
is, and
very
the thing too is,
complex. I mean,
we are gonna be able to add anything to these maps as time goes on. You know, as things change, let's say, they accept a road, it was a private road, but it has been approved by the town. That can
So-
be added at any time.
so it's not gonna be hey, here's a set of
Right.
documents, and there's a
It's a-
timestamp on them, and
it's a-
that's where it was in 2013.
It's a fluid,
It's gonna be a dynamic set of documents, so.
Okay, the second comment I had was when you talked about the transfer station, and I'd like either yourself or Selectman Woodson to comment. I had a telephone conversation with somebody relative to another matter, but during the course of the conversation, they brought up that they thought that the transfer station wasted an awful lot of money down there, that it was costing us a lot. And I, tried to assure that individual that the transfer station actually, makes us some money. And if there's anything, I know that the two of you work more closely on things than I do, that maybe you could comment overall. Some of the things where they keep moving stuff around down there so they can't find it, and it's, there's a little bit of confusion
I
there.
guess I would look at it this way, and I'm not saying that there aren't things that probably could improve down there. I think we all would recognize that. I think even the people that work down there would recognize that, right? But I think what we have to look at is that, a number of years ago, there was a proposal to go to paper bag because the transfer station was gonna cost us $1 million a year. All right, we did that paper bag thing, it got defeated, but I think in the last 5 or 6 or 7 years, with a lot of help from David when he was chair, and I think a very good committee that has a good foundation, the cost of running the transfer station has steadily declined. Unlike every other department in this town, the annual cost of the transfer station is going down, not up. Now, part of that is because the tonnage is going down, but the other part is that I think it's becoming, can it be better managed? Probably can. But I think that the message is that, every year, the cost of solid waste disposal in this community is going down.
Yeah, and part of that is we're more efficient.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's at the point now where the taxpayers or the users of that transfer station is gonna make a difference. I mean, if they wanna reduce costs even more, if they started to recycle,
Yeah.
that would really make a huge difference. So it's,
Yep.
I mean,
So-
I think we've tweaked things about as much as we can, and now the townspeople have to step up.
Right, but I think, not to poo-poo the suggestion, because I think there's always, no matter what you look, whatever department that you look in within the town, there's
Yeah.
always ways to say, how can we do things better and faster and quicker and waste less money? But I think that the bottom line of the transfer station, and I'm not saying that they're, all I'm saying is that year over year over year, in the past 5 years, you look at the annual budget for that, and it's going down. Now part of that is our assessments in Ecomaine are going down. Now it's gonna, we're gonna get a bigger bang because our tipping fees are going down, but, the structure of how the transfer station is run, I think is at least fit. Whether it's as efficient as it could be or not, there's a system down there that appears to be working, right? So, but I wouldn't poo-poo anybody's suggestion that, hey, there's a better way to do things. There's room on the transfer station committee if that person would be interested in coming on, right? I mean, if there's ideas out there, then more than welcome.
Getting back to that person, if they don't happen to be watching this evening, but, thank you.
All right. I missed one thing, let me just go back, I hit it up on my computer here. Dr. Pepper, in the Snapple group, is donating $300,000 to Keep America Beautiful, and there are grant applications that have to be in by the 26th, so I'll get this to Clint and maybe Pat. This just came from Lynn at Ecomaine,
April 26th or March?
April 26th.
So stay. You gotta stay up till midnight, get it done.
No, what they're doing is, they're gonna provide, the primary purpose is to fund placement of recycling bins, to provide citizens visiting public parks greater access to recycling systems. So if we wanted something at the town beach or the Friendship Park, and we needed a recycling bin or something of that nature, this may fund it, so, anyway. I guess we gotta get back to the agenda, right? All right, jumping into, town administrator's report.
The warrant has been given to the finance committee, and they're doing their recommendations. They met last Thursday. They gave me some recommendations, they had some questions, and answered them, and they're going back this Thursday. As they come in, I'm adding them to the warrant, and today we received the actual figure for the 6 months transition budget for the York County government, and we'll have to, we had rounded it off, I think we put 38,700, and it was 38,682, so. The crisis fund, you do not need an article for the crisis fund, because that is automatic as of July 1st in the charter. You have to have an article, you have to hold a special town meeting or have an article when you want to spend any of it. But you can have an article to raise funds from, it would have to be from taxation to cover any or all part of the fund.
So if there wasn't sufficient money in there, we would have to have a town meeting or a warrant that would say we're gonna put money into it, right?
Yes. But you gotta remember, and you can use taxation until the taxes are committed, and after that, then there wouldn't be any.
But if we didn't have enough to make the number, then we would
We'd
have
have
to
to have
address it,
it.
but since
Right.
we have enough to make the number.
Right. I'm on a weekly basis now, I'm updating all of the budget sheets, because it was, I'm working with 5 different sheets and constantly changing them, so it's easier to do it once we have a department head scheduled for Thursday. They wants to know where their budget is standing, so we're gonna go over that with them. The insurance forms for our property, liability and all that runs from July 1st to June 30th. All the renewal forms have been completed and sent. The fixed asset list for the audit has been updated, and we'll only need to have to add the new ambulance when that comes in. And today, Christina noticed in this month's MMA newsletter that came out late this afternoon, they are offering free webinars, and the 2 of them we're gonna look into further. One is customer service in an anti-government age, and the other one is understanding others. It's all about perspective, which is learn how to better relate to coworkers regardless of your and their common mode of communications, and they're free. So we're gonna look into that further.
Do you know when they,
Yeah, we'll have to, this came out, what, at like 5:18?
Yeah, you can just access them, they're
Yeah.
already pre-recorded, I think they're about an hour long.
Yeah.
So,
Keep us updated on that. so
Yeah, well,
we can-
that's what we kind of tossed around, is do we have it so everybody can go in, or do we have it in here, and then everybody can watch it at once and answer any questions, but. If, I'll get an appropriation report if you want one for next week, to where it stands, and I'm starting to work on the town meeting handout that we have each year.
Good. Anything else? All right, well, we can move into new business. Discuss and vote to approve the disaster mutual aid agreement for York County.
I will move that we accept that annual aid agreement.
I'll second that.
And is there any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Discuss vote to sign a letter to the Water District regarding the work of the 2020 committee.
This is for their participation.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just
I would
requesting it.
move that we sign the letter to the Water District regarding that work with the 2020 committee.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Sensing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Discuss vote to approve the resolution regarding the selectmen's position on the governor's proposed budget. I think there's a couple of handouts here tonight, but there's one in the packet, I think was prepared by staff here. I'm not sure how many other ways you can say it, but we don't like it, we don't like it, we don't like it, but.
What I like about the one from Lincoln, and particularly the one from Sanford, is it's the same thing basically as what Nancy put out to us, but it gets into the specifics of the dollar amount that the town is going to be impacted by, and what the impact of that is going to be on the tax rate. And I would like to see that added into our proposed resolution, because I think it sends a good message to our representatives on what this impact is going to be. And I think it's also something that we can give to the townspeople so that they understand what the impact to them is going to be. Because we can keep saying the budget's going to impact you, it's going to impact you, it's going to impact you. But, you know, like with Sanford, when they put right in here that it's an impact of $2.39 on the mill rate, I think that really gets people's attention.
Another whereas statement, whereas the governor's proposal will cost the town of Waterboro,
Yeah, they've got, the Sanford one has, you know, it specifically calls out what the revenue sharing impact is going to be, what the excise tax proposal is going to be, what the Homestead Exemption Act is going to have for an impact on the community. So it addresses all of the components of the governor. So I would really like us to use Sanford's as a template for our resolution.
Anything else?
The discussion.
is that
I don't, yeah, there's been no motion, so I
Yeah.
guess it's,
I'd actually like to see us postpone this until we have a final document that we're gonna review to vote on, rather than vote this evening just to have a resolution.
that'd just be a week, right? So we could put in that extra information. I don't think delaying it a week is going to cause any.
any other comments? Or?
Is there a specific time that we have to have this resolution to Augusta?
No.
Is there a deadline? There isn't.
I mean, we're not gonna wanna wait 2 months,
Well,
but
obviously, yeah, but I think, like John said, a week would be
Yeah,
appropriate for us
no.
to
So is it,
collate all this data.
it's reasonable to expect we could put those numbers.
And a copy
in,
of this
right?
would go to John Tuttle and to Aaron Libby, too.
Yep.
So can we have that done by next week?
I'll
by
get with
Fridays.
Jerry, see if he, I had asked him to start looking at some of the figures.
yeah.
I think he said that overall it'd be like a 4% increase.
Nancy, if you want this one, if you wanna trade with me, I kind of like put some little hash marks on
Okay.
the pieces that, could I have yours so that I still have one? Thanks. Swap with you.
All right,
See if I can get that.
Anything else on that?
So we-
we'll delay action until next week,
It's
so
also
that'll
the
go
one,
under
yeah.
old business. Under new business, discuss vote on committee appointment. Gentleman that we met this evening.
I move that we put Donald Sauls on the cemetery committee.
No, I'll second that.
Any discussion? Sensing none, all those in favor? Opposed? We told him he would have to come in and see you, Christina, so if you can make contact with him.
See if he's interested in the garden committee too, because he wanted work to do, so.
Yeah, he wants to stay busy.
Now
Discuss
keep him
vote-
busy.
Yeah, discuss vote to ask road commission to complete the speed limit request for information regarding the request for speed phone review of West Road. Do we have to ask the road commission to do that?
No.
I guess.
Well, I move that we ask him.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we request the road commissioner to complete the application. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
I can
Item-
almost hear in my head what he's going to say.
Item 6, discuss the vote to approve the lease for the new ambulance. Let's talk about this before we go throwing I guess there's been a second proposal that's been presented, but we had the Gorham Leasing, Gorham Bank Leasing, Gorham Leasing Group. Now have one from Andrew Scoggin Bank. You know, I guess my opinion would be to let Matt and Nancy work things out, which is the best here. I think the real discussion that we ought to have is it a 7-year lease or is it a 10-year lease?
I think the 7-year lease makes the most sense. There's not a huge difference in the per year cost, and you're paying a lot more on the 10-year lease cumulatively. And I think there's a couple banks, they're pretty close, and being that close, I'd go with a local one.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of difference in it's like $1,200 difference in the
And that one,
total payout.
this one could change when it's on a daily basis.
Okay.
The other one has been,
So that would be my recommendation, to let the fire chief and the town administrator go forward with a 7-year thing.
I would agree with John on his assessment on that, because I think the interest amounted to close to $15,000 for 3 years, which is, to me,
It's an annual payment.
yeah, it's exorbitant.
and the finance committee has already given their recommendation for a 7-year too.
And I think going to the local bank's a good idea, because if I remember right, it's one that's been contributing pretty good to the community, you know, over the last few years, and I think that.
But this is the one that we have used, they handle about all of our leases.
Gorham, yeah.
So with that, would somebody care to make a motion to,
I'll move to go with the 7-year lease with Gorham Savings.
Second.
any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Item 7, discuss planning board moving forward with proposed addition to the zoning ordinance, wellhead protection. We just adopted this, didn't we, David? I mean, is this some change?
Well, according to them, they didn't feel that what was there was adequate, but
So what they now want to add is any well that requires a wellhead protection zone which extends into abutting property shall be a conditional use in all zones?
yeah.
Okay, so from that, I would gather that they didn't permit the wellhead that went into, off from Straw Mill Brick Road?
I can't answer that.
It's,
Well, I mean, it is a
Yeah.
commercial, it is a
Yeah.
commercial
I know.
wellhead that's going in, and I would think that the planning board would have some, jurisdiction over it, but
They felt that
evidently
this
there's
would,
nothing that gives them that at this point, so they want to add this.
they felt that this would give the landowner more flexibility.
So I,
Where there's a change in this, do they or do we have to have another public hearing?
well, that's, I guess, the next question I have is, okay, procedurally, where are we? If we say, all right, let's go forward, then they have to have a public hearing for this change.
Is this the one that they wanted to see what the board's feeling was before they went any further with it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I believe.
Yeah.
That's, just,
Yeah, Tina said before they did much work on it, they wanted to see
Right.
how the selectmen feel about it before they put in a lot of time, and then
All I can say, I guess, from my 2 cents is that there was a lot of discussion when we were going through wellhead protection stuff about us being the tail wagging the dog here, so to speak, right? They put a well in and then they said, oh, we're gonna have wellhead protection, right? So I think before somebody sticks a production water well in somewhere in town, the planning board ought to have some jurisdiction over it.
yeah, that's what this is about.
Anybody else?
I don't think we ought to do it without a public hearing.
No,
because
but I think
people
this-
would view it as
Right.
Yeah,
like
no.
trying to
do it
slip
without a
something
hearing.
in.
Yeah, we can't do it without a public hearing, but this is a message to, I guess what they're looking for is an affirmative vote from the board to say, yes, we would agree, you
Go
should
for
go
it.
ahead,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
You wanna make that for a
so
motion, David?
I will move that in principle we agree with the zoning ordinance, addition to the zoning ordinance.
Do I have a second?
Second that.
So the motion is that in principle, we agree with the proposed change in some form, right? Any further discussion? All those in favor? Okay, so the message to the planning board is we want to move forward. Whole business, FY14 budget updates, CIP request updates. Are we all set? Anything anybody want to bring up? Town charter revision implementation, town administrative position has been posted. Job description's good, and it's kind of already talked about that. I think Nancy has answered the emergency fund question. Public Works, Dave,
I'm still gathering.
okay, and bylaws and policy,
Working on it.
okay. Other warrants and bills for payroll, I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded for warrants and bills for payroll. All those in favor? Opposed? And minutes of the March 12th regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Pending decisions, we're still there, public service, announcements, driveway opening permit, board committee status. EDC, Dave, I think, you know, we kind of ran that forum, so maybe we ought to get our heads together and maybe we can grab Tom and Tammy Jo as well to talk about how do we spur this and get something going, so. And I'd like to go over David, you put because I looked at part of it, it's still up on the web, that meeting, that EDC forum?
Yes.
Yeah.
It will stay there.
Yep.
Forever.
Forever now.
And for me, right? Week's action list, not sure we had much action other than we're gonna redo the resolution. Okay, I lost my list here. Bear with me just 1 second. I only got a few more pieces of paper to go through. Come on. All right. Okay, discussion of agenda items. Couple of things that I've got. We're gonna have an executive session at 5:30 next week with Deputy Sanborn and his sergeant.
Steve Disselwood.
Code Red.
Code
A lot of
red.
discussion, York County versus local, so.
Matt is gathering all the
Okay.
information.
Yeah,
on
Matt's
that.
gonna have some information on
Let's
that.
plug him in next week. There was a kind of an informal request from the Community Gardens Committee here tonight for water. I guess three things we need to know is how much do they need, how much do we have?
They got two wells.
And are the two compatible, right? So we ought to be able to, once we know that, we make a decision of whether or not they can tap into this one out here, right? So I don't know if we get that from Pete, or, I mean, if they ran this 24/7,
Oh, it wouldn't be run 24/7.
oh, but if it ran 24/7, it's a community garden, right? As long as it's properly done and all that stuff. And the other thing, transfer station committee recommendation on summer Mondays. We'll have to vote on that.
Yeah, Clint send you an email, Christina, about putting it on the agenda? Okay.
He did.
What else?
Has the garden club given any consideration to some type of on-site collection thing of
Rainwater?
and everything that they can have? Okay.
Use the rainwater to make their tea, don't they?
Good stuff.
All right.
We'll see what we're trying to do. We're trying to get it up and going with what little funds that we have. And we do want a water tank, the plastic tank to put out there.
Okay, items needing signature, warrants and bills of payroll, minutes of the March 12th meeting, and also the abatement book. Reminders, Old Home Days Committee, Thursday night at 6:30 in the Old Home Days Committee, Old Home Days Committee in the Old Town Hall. Finance Committee will have a special meeting at 6:30 PM in the Old Town Hall. On Thursday evening, Library Board of Trustees will be meeting Thursday evening at 7 PM at the library. The Selectmen's meeting back here a week from tonight with the Fire Department, EMA, and the Contract Deputy reporting. Next Wednesday night, the Planning Board will be meeting here 7 PM in this room. Next Thursday night at 5 PM, the Conservation Committee in the Old Town Hall. Monday night, the 8th, 2020 Master Planning Committee. Question for David, when is Sewell presenting?
22nd.
22nd. Monday night, the 8th, Community Garden Committee at the Old Town Hall. 2020 Master Planning Committee will be meeting at the Central Station, by the way. April 8th, I don't think there's a transfer station committee meeting,
No?
but anyway. And then Tuesday, April 9th, we will be back here with the RSU 57 representatives.
And the garden committee is also meeting every Monday now, too.
Any other discussion? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Good night.